And it's worth reminding the House of the situation in July of last year, when we did have the fastest growth in the G7. Employment was 4 million higher than it was in 2010, up to 33 million people in employment. Inflation was on target at around 2%. And, Mr Deputy Speaker, the UK had grown between 2010 and 2024. It had grown faster than Germany, faster than France, faster than Japan, or indeed Italy. That was the legacy of Conservative stewardship. Now, I've asked members opposite to give a more rounded picture, which they sadly and almost always refuse to do. But, of course, we had seen debt to GDP go up significantly, partly because of the massive deficit which we inherited in 2010 at more than 10% of GDP. I mean, phenomenal, which had to be brought down over time, but partly because of COVID and Ukraine, where we intervened to pay half of everyone's energy bills. So there's a rounded picture, but overall we managed to come out with people helped through COVID, helped through the energy crisis with remarkably high levels of employment. Yet now, just a year later, under this Chancellor's watch, that strong foundation has crumbled. But what the party opposite needed to do was recognise that the economy was recovering and let it grow. Instead, by coming in, by being held, on the one hand, held by the manifesto commitments not to put up the main taxes, and yet on the other hand, actually thinking they were being clever in some way, that by imposing national insurance rises on business but not on individuals, that they were somehow keeping to their pledges. They actually had the most bizarre and perverse effect. At the 25 billion hit on the economy created by the jobs tax actually comes down to about 16 billion after behaviour change, according to the OBR, and then after compensation for the public sector comes to about down to 11. Then people have had to scrabble around for hospices, GPs, etc. The net, probably about 10 billion, and that's before the depressing impact on the overall economy. So it's almost certainly single figures billions. And yet the OBR also says that 76% from next year of the impact of the 25 billion hit, guess what? It comes out of ordinary people's wages. That's the situation. So they have in fact imposed a tax of 19 billion on ordinary people's earnings in order to generate less than 10 billion of tax revenue. Crazy. So it's utterly insane. And I really would ask members opposite on the backbenches to have a look at that, follow that, come back. I'd love to hear if those numbers are wrong, because I'd love to hear that we aren't doing something as suicidal, crazy and damaging as it appears that we are doing. And I wish I could drink the Kool-Aid like the honourable member for Rugby. And the funniest thing about him, about a man for whom I have a great deal of respect and affection, is that unlike some of his colleagues who spout this stuff, he gives every impression, and I believe it, that he believes it himself. Now that is what's truly extraordinary, but I give way to the honourable gentleman.
I thank the right honourable gentleman for allowing me to intervene. I am certainly not drinking Kool-Aid. I do believe what I say. I believe it firmly. And I respect the right honourable gentleman as a colleague, even though he's from a different party, but no Kool-Aid for me.
The honourable gentleman for that. The economy has contracted for 2 consecutive months, Mr Deputy Speaker, shrinking by 0.3% in April and 0.1% in May, a textbook sign that we are or could be heading into recession. Employment is down too. ONS data shows payroll jobs have fallen by over 100,000 in a single month, with around 274,000 fewer jobs compared to last year, and unemployment climbing to 4.6%. But following the excellent speech by the honourable member, the right honourable member for Salisbury, I must just say, let's look at the big picture. And again, I would appeal to colleagues opposite on the opposite benches, because there was a magnificent victory for Labour last year in the election with 400 plus MPs. I mean, it really is up to Labour members there to recognise just how scary a position we're in, because we do have debt to GDP at about 100%. We've got a world in which the fastest growth is to be found in developing states, some of which are quite hostile to us and our values. The truth is that no rich country, no powerful country has some divine right to stay that way. Wealth does not just come down from the heavens. And I think even in the 14 years when we were in government, too often this place would seem to obsess only about how we'd spend money. We'd talk about, from the moment we got up in the morning till the time we went to bed at night, we'd talk about how would we spend the money. We'd argue about that. You've got to generate it first. And it doesn't matter whether your number one concern is alleviation of poverty, or indeed the defence of the nation, or education, or the health service. You've got to have a strong economy. That's why the government was right. One of the reasons it may have got that majority is because it said its number one mission was economic growth. Do you remember that? It doesn't come through in the speeches now from the party opposite. Number one mission is economic growth. We should be sweating in select committees, in all-party groups, on the floor of this House, in Westminster Hall, sweating, how do we deliver that economic growth? So we're not going backwards, but we're actually growing the economy. And we have to accept as well, which is going to be tough for members opposite, most of whom have not had any private sector experience, who tend to believe that the rich are just there to take money off, that wealth creators are just can be endlessly offered haircuts and that they'll just put up with it, and if they don't, it shows some moral flaw on their part. The art of government is to recognise the realities, to align the incentives of actors, in this case in the economy, with the public goods we want to see. And after a year, there are so many flashing red lights, warning signs that the government isn't getting that right. So it needs to be prepared to think again. And in my experience, and I was involved after that omnishambles budget of 2012, was part of helping the then Chancellor see his route to a better path forward. It is important that members opposite recognise it. The country is in a really serious and parlous position, potentially. We have no divine right, as I say, to be a wealthy, powerful nation. And it is the next 4 years are important. I hope and expect there will be a Conservative government after it, but whatever happens, the next 4 years are important, and I hope members opposite will start to give rather more nuanced and thoughtful speeches in order to influence the front bench.